Have y'all ever been confused
What?
about things going on in the world?
A lot.
Have you ever tried to figure some of it out, like Washington D.C., what's going on there?
I think they know.
That's my head, I can't do that.
Or what about some of the social debates going on, especially with the LGBTQ communities? And the one, well, God made a mistake with me. What happens when you try to follow those debates or try to figure out something in Washington, D.C. or someplace else?
Get more confused than ever.
Get more confused. You might even wind up with a headache.
Yeah.
Oh yeah? A stroke?
Yeah, no, headache that is so, you can't do anything but go lay down on bed and shut out everything around you. And that headache can last for days. And you get so confused, you don't know which way is up. And sometimes people get to wondering, and they even say, how can a loving God allow abortion to happen? Or how can a loving God allow something else to happen? Why would He create such confusion? Why would God give us confusion in the world? Well, those arguments are kind of misleading. God's not the author of confusion. As we see 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. Author and creator mean the same thing here. God does not create confusion. He does not put confusion into the world. Now, He might allow confusion, but that's because of a little pesky thing we've got called free will. We're the ones that create the confusion. But there's one other that creates confusion as well. Let's go to Job chapter 1, verses 6 and 7. See if we can figure out who is the creator of confusion. Job chapter 1, verses 6 and 7. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So they're up there having a meeting, business meeting basically, kind of, sort of. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So they're having this business meeting. And this one person called Satan is there. He gets called out. Why are you here? What have you been doing? He says, I've been walking around the earth. But he doesn't really tell what he's been doing. He just says, I've been going around the earth. But we know he's been sowing seeds of confusion and hate, discontent, and all sorts of other things, trying to confuse people. Get them to believe that God is not the good God He says He is. But is what Satan was doing. Well, we jump back to 1 Corinthians. What did I just read? God is the author of peace. So if he's the author of peace, how can he create confusion and get people mad? Now, if Satan was going around spreading peace, especially the peace of God, he would not have challenged God, as you see in Job 1, chapter 1, verse 11. He tells God, "But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face." He's telling God, take away everything you do for Job. Take away all of your protections that you've put around him. And he'll curse you. He won't ask you for forgiveness. He'll curse you. But as we read through the book of Job, we see that that's not the case. And we also know that Satan puts a little twist on his lies. And that's over in Genesis, chapter 2 and chapter 3. The first thing we have is in Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. This is God telling Adam what he can't eat in the garden. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, "Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die." And that's all God says to him. You can eat of every tree around here that's bearing fruit, except for this one tree. Don't eat it. The day you do, you'll die. Now, I'm not getting into whether it meant a spiritual death or a physical death. I'm not getting into that argument today. That's a whole nother sermon for a whole nother time. I'm just using this. This is God's instruction to man. But over in chapter 3, starting in verse 1, I'm not going to read the whole section because it's lengthy. But it starts off with a conversation between the woman and the serpent. And the serpent asked, "Did God really say not to eat of every tree in the garden?" And the woman responds, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die." Now that was the woman replying to the serpent's question. And in a way, the serpent was right, because there was one specific tree he said not to eat of. But Eve came back and said, "No, we can eat of every tree except for the one, but we're not supposed to touch it either." But God never said that. However, serpent responds, "You will not die." Talking about eating of the tree that we're not supposed to. "You will not die, but your eyes will be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." Now, he said you shall be as gods, and you shall know good and evil, but you're not going to die. So he twisted what God said. God said you will die. And again, that's getting into, did he mean a spiritual death or a physical death? And I'm not getting into that. But what I'm doing is pointing out the serpent confused Eve. She made the fruit of that tree look good with his words, because it says she looked at it and saw that it was good, and it was good to eat. But now going back to my question at the beginning, have you ever been confused? The world is a confusing place. And why is it a confusing place? Because of free will and Satan, the serpent, going around twisting everything. And today is probably going to be even more confusing for some people. First of all, today's Groundhog Day, and they said we're going to have an early spring. I'm asking, did we even have winter? You know. But there's something else going on today. A game that a lot of people look forward to. It's a huge game. I mean, people might even go as far as skipping evening services if their church has services. They won't go to church. They'd much rather watch that game. But now, why are they watching the game? Is it because of the people playing the game? Or are they watching for the commercials? To see what the advertisers put out. Now, some of the commercials are respectful, and they do honor people that have lost their lives and whatever. But there are also others that cause confusion. Over the last couple of weeks, I've seen on Facebook, and I'm sure most of y'all have too, or other forms of social media, that Fox, they're the ones carrying this game. They've been the ones selling the commercial time. There was a pro-life commercial produced, but they're refusing to air it. But yet, there's going to be another commercial with transgender people and other members of the LGBTQ community, possibly. And of course, we know there's going to be commercials promoting alcohol, and I almost guarantee promote gambling, using your cell phone to gamble, and who knows what else. And the one thing all those commercials have in common is they're trying to normalize and get accepted gambling, drinking, lifestyles that are an abomination to God. They're trying to say, you need to accept us. We're here. This is who we are. And that creates all sorts of confusion. But our God, and those of us that are Christians, we know God does not create confusion. He is the author of peace. He brings peace to everybody, especially those in the church. Because we know this world is not for us, but the hope that he brings. The time where he has hope, faith, and peace. There's one word missing: confusion. Because God is not a God of confusion. What he says in the Bible is the same as it's been for the last 2,000 plus years. And so as we come to an end, if you want to join our church, make a profession of faith, rededicate your life, or pray about something, I'll be down in front here waiting, and God will be here with me. He's here with us now. So as we get ready to sing,
Number 183. 183.